it going, everybody? It's your boy, Lieutenant Dan, here live from Orlando, Florida. Talk to you a little bit about the Atlanta Falcons and the things that are currently going on in the Falcons verse after the Combine has gone through. And just some news and notes about what we're going to be doing for some channel things, and then what we're going to be kind of working into, the Instagram and the YouTube and all those other things. We recently opened up a TikTok. We're going to be working on that for a little bit. So there's going to be some TikTok videos coming out, some videos for the X, and then YouTube will get a little sprinkle of those things, just some highlights of what's going on. And we'll do the podcasts here and so on and so forth, so everybody can kind of see what's going on. So it's just a couple of things, very interesting, just a few things that I have going on currently. Just as news and notes of what's happening in Falcons universe, or whatever is going on in the Falcons land right now. Everybody's kind of talking a little bit about how the Falcons are trying to open up cap space, open opportunity for the Falcons to have cap space to be able to afford things. As we get closer, Falcons brought most of their defensive staff to the Combine this week, and the Combine has come and gone. We've seen, a couple of interviews here and there, but nothing has really leaked for the Atlanta Falcons at all. A couple of guys that the Falcons have looked at, but nothing necessarily newsworthy or noteworthy at all, because at the end of the day, the Falcons right now are looking at a defensive draft. Offensively, it looks like they're bringing back Kyle Pitts. There's going to be no problem unless they get a really amazing offer. It looks like they won't be moving Kirk Cousins. It looks like, for the most part, they're going to be putting the same offense except for Drew Dahlman. It looks like they are okay with Drew Dahlman, hitting free agency and allowing him to go out and pursue a contract that obviously he would deserve. Some teams are looking at him as, someone that might command somewhere around 15 to 20 million a year. It's just the how well he has done in Atlanta, and the Falcons weren't able to actually kind of set him up in a way that he could continue with us. So they're most believe that Drew Dahlman is gone, and that would bring up, if I'm saying this name correctly, that would bring up Ryan Nuziel, who would be the interior, the center for the Atlanta Falcons going forward. You still have Lindstrom, you still have Bergeron, you still have Matthews, you still have McGarry, so you're going to probably run that with Nuziel and maybe a drafted offensive lineman in the second or third round. It's looking like the Falcons are, draft-wise, setting themselves up for any type of defensive player to be there at 15, and the Falcons might end up just pouncing on that. I'm currently in the group right now that believes that the Falcons should trade down. I don't think there's a reason why the Atlanta Falcons should be taking a pick 15, taking a player at pick 15. To me, it doesn't make any sense. You've only got 4 or 5 picks total in this entire draft class. You don't have enough money. I mean, yes, you can do some restructures. You can move some money down the field. You can, you can set up something for the next couple of years because you are going to have the money because Kirk Cousins will be gone next year. You're going to have the money over the next couple of years. So I think the major question for this Falcons organization is just where are you going to go with the money right now in order to open up spaces for you to bring in more talent and get above the salary cap. Because right now below the salary cap. Because right now you are above the salary cap, and it's not by much. It's a negligible amount that the Falcons have to be able to move. But it's enough money right now that if you're a Falcons fan, you're going, well, where are the cuts? Where's the movement? Where are the changes? So I think I'm with a lot of people right now in saying we are waiting for those moves to open up. We're waiting for those opportunities to arise. and the Falcons are perceivably going to be aggressive in their search for players in free agency. So here's what we know so far. Number one, we've been told that Kirk Cousins is most likely going to stay. The QB market right now is volatile. There's not enough QB talent in the current draft class right now that it seems like the Falcons are going to end up being able to move Kirk Cousins in any way, shape, or form. It's looking like there isn't enough for the Falcons to be able to move people. That's crazy. I don't know why that was set so low. But it's looking like there's not enough on the market right now for people to be desperate enough to be able to move Kirk Cousins. I know that sounds kind of weird, but there's not enough desperation right now because there is some hope in the draft for the teams that there's desperately needing a quarterback, and there's just having a need at quarterback, and you can make do. And I think that's where we currently are in the QB market right now, is there's not enough desperation for a team to go out and grab Kirk Cousins and the Falcons get anything as far as a return. Or any restructure or any change in contract that the next team can swallow some of that money. We don't have that luxury. However, I think that, Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, those guys are going to create interest for the teams at the top. They're going to make those really QB needy teams step away. And so now you're looking at the second tier or third tier of QB needy teams, and I don't think that there's a willingness, unless desperation much later in the year set in and there were some boundaries and changes set to that QB contract with Kirk Cousins. So I don't expect the Falcons to move Kirk Cousins whatsoever because there just isn't any desperation in the market, and there's enough talent from the draft standpoint and enough guys in free agency that the big QB needy teams, when you get to tier 2 and tier 3 of QB needs, those teams will go with cheaper and more solidified options than taking a risk with Kirk Cousins. So you expect Kirk Cousins to be the backup in Atlanta, and for Michael Penix Jr. to be the starter in Atlanta and get his first actual a full year of play, which we will see some great things. We'll see some things that he needs to learn, and we'll see some great things from Michael Penix. Number 2 is that the Falcons are being told, people are saying that the Falcons are saying that they're going to be very aggressive in the free agent market. Does that mean that they're going to aggressively go after their own guys and kind of, re-sign everybody that they are about to miss? Guys like Kadarius Hodge, or maybe you have a Landman or something to those effects, Rondell Moore. Yeah, I guess you could be aggressive with your own free agents. And therefore we're aggressive in free agency to sign back a lot of the guys that you were about to miss. But I don't expect the Atlanta Falcons to go into free agency and move so much money around that, they're out there contending for the Trey Hendricksons of the world and so on and so forth. I think they'll find another Matthew Judon type that's going to come in here and play well for the team, and I think they're going to rely heavily on AK, the development of Trice, the development of Rook and Dorless, and then these upcoming draft picks that they're going to implement, and they're going to try to put into the rotation of what they currently have right now. So I think defensively, the team doesn't go into free agency and just buy up with every cent and dollar that they have, buy up players on the market. I think they're going to be selective I think they will be aggressive, but I think they will be selective about not only the players that they have already on the market from their own team, but just some guys that are on the cheap that are looking for a good contract that can be here for a few years while their development from this draft and last draft starts to shine and show what they're worth. I mean, Trice, we don't know what he's worth right now. Dorless, Rook, up and down with playing time and injuries. You have something with JT Bertrand, but you don't know what you're going to end up getting long term. And your offense is pretty much the same. I mean, you're bringing back pretty much everything except for the center. So center, as long as you can get a capable center, I think this team can do well. So I don't expect them to be very a free agent frenzy, like going after a bunch of people, but I expect them to end up getting a few guys that can do some great things. This team just doesn't have the money this year unless they're willing to dip into next year, pay guys on a minimum this year, and I just don't know how many people are willing to do that on the first year and step into the next year getting paid and having to play and potentially get injured, and then a whole, slippery slope goes down. But, that's the negative. If you want to think about the negative, the positive is maybe some guys will end up signing on the cheap for this year, get a little more cap responsibility next year. And then, you start thinking about the Drake Londons, the Bijans, the Kyle Pitts, whether or not you're going to end up paying them. So no Kyle Pitts trade. Kirk Cousins most likely going to be a bench guy unless somebody just comes and desperately wants to take Kirk Cousins off your hands. Like, oh my gosh, Kirk Cousins, that's the guy for us. Those 2 Buccaneers games, oh my gosh, that's the guy. We need that guy. We can get 6 to 8 wins defensively. We can take care of business. Don't see Kyle Pitts going. Don't see Kirk Cousins getting traded unless it's just absolutely crazy. I don't see the Falcons being, super aggressive in free agency as far as guys that, aren't already on the team. I mean, I think they're probably going to go out there and go get their own dudes. What's going on, Christian? Good to see you, my man. Rise up, stay grounded. And then draft-wise, they brought mostly the entire defensive side of the ball. And we're checking out everybody mostly on the defensive side of the ball. Now, will they throw us a curveball? That would be interesting. But just looking at how the draft is currently following and how the combine has kind of come and gone, I was not enamored with this year's combine at all because it kind of felt like this class is all about tape and all about what they could develop into. This is a developing class, not a class of immediate standout superstars. I mean, even some of the top guys in this class are injured, coming off of injury. So I would expect the Falcons to come into this year looking to trade down, looking to acquire more draft selections, looking to replace that third-round selection that they're missing, grab a fourth, grab a fifth, get a couple of picks there. And it would not be surprising if a guy like a Will Johnson, because of, for whatever reason, ends up getting to the Atlanta Falcons' 15th selection. I would not be surprised if the Atlanta Falcons held a little exhibition for somebody at the top to ask to come down and come get Will Johnson because they feel mighty, strong about picking him up and being the guy, and the Falcons are more concerned with the fact that they just don't have the holes, the plugs for all the holes that they currently have. So I can see the Falcons looking into this and saying, if we took somebody at 15, it'd have to be the perfect guy. And if we go best player available, we're going to end up finding ourselves taking another offensive player. We will. We'll end up taking, by looking at this from a best player perspective, you'll end up taking an offensive player. Because the best player available at 15 will most likely be one of the wide receivers if Tyler Warren is still there. Or, this sounds absolutely crazy, but one of the falling offensive linemen like a Will Campbell or something like that, if that is there for you at 15, you might be asking teams behind you, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Hey, maybe even the very back end of the first round. Hey, we feel like we can still get a quality defensive end or defensive tackle, linebacker at, pick 20 to 32. And we would love to be able to get an additional third for this trade back or multiple selections if somebody wants to come up and say a Will Campbell is available, or, say a Will Johnson is sitting there and you're flirting with the idea of taking Will Johnson and putting him on the back end with A.J. Terrell, and a team comes calling. You need to be ready for an opportunity like that. And more than ever, I think that actually this is where the podcaster comes in. This is where the guy that, this is not what the team should do. This is where I'm currently standing and where I'm putting my flag into the dirt up on that hill. I'm going to take it right up that hill. I'm going to walk it up there. I'm going to sweat it off. I'm going to plant that flag, which is we must trade back this year. It has to be done. It has to be done. You have to trade back. You don't have the draft selections to plug every hole, and you don't have the money. Even if you create $40 million in cap space, right? Even if you create $40 million in cap space, you don't have enough money to be able to plug every single hole. You don't really have to do much for offense, but if you lose Drew Dahlman, you will have to replace center. Ryan Newsel is not going to be, the end-all, be-all fix to be able to help you win a Super Bowl. Okay, so you're gonna need to either elevate that position, or you're going to need to fill that position with a draft pick that's going to end up developing and giving you a better opportunity later as you go for a left-handed quarterback, because that the Jake Matthews and the McGarrys of the world are not long for this team, not only contract but age-wise. So we have to start thinking of that, that type of scenario. Are we really surprised they're keeping their golden boys who can't do wrong? I don't know what that's in reference to, Christian, but I'm sure that if the Falcons are aggressive in this addition by subtraction mindset and are able to grab some draft selections that even out the compensation and talent, I wouldn't be too surprised if the Falcons are better off without some of their golden boys, and they do well for themselves. But it just depends on what kind of defensive alignment that they have. Grady Jarrett and Kyle Pitts. I think Grady Jarrett is plug-and-play reliable, and I think the more you have him on the field, the quicker he gets tired and more he gets exposed, because he doesn't have dominant guys next to him, and that's honest truth is that he doesn't have a dominant defensive end that will take some double teams. So you can double team a Grady Jarrett, and you can make his life a little miserable, and he does get blown off the spot, and that is what it is. I wouldn't trade Grady Jarrett. I would make some type of extension or some type of claim for that. Just so that at the end of it all, you can end up saying, okay, like if we do go on a run, Grady Jarrett was there. Because we can. With Penix, with London, with Bijan, with Algier, with this offensive line, even minus Drew Dahlman, you can find somebody. I don't think it's impossible. I think with this offense, you can do great things. I also believe that defensively, we're not that far off, but we just don't have the talent to do this repeatedly over and over and keep that consistency over and over. We just don't have the talent to be able to do that. So it would be very much like the 2016 defense when we went to the Super Bowl. That 2015, 2016, you find the right linebackers that make the right hits and make the right interceptions, but the defensive line is a hodgepodge of guys that are hoping to create that pressure and create those sacks. So, you're going to have to figure out something. I don't think that James Pierce Jr. is going to be there for the Falcons. I think that the Carolina Panthers are going to end up taking James Pierce Jr., which means that you're going to have to take a flyer on, especially with this off-the-field stuff that just popped up about Mike Green. You're going to have to take a flyer on a Mike Green, or you're going to have to think about whether or not you want to take Micah Williams or Walker out of Georgia, which I think that Walker is just Caden Ellis. So you already have Caden Ellis. You don't need a second Caden Ellis. Not that I wouldn't invite it, but as a primary pass rusher, I don't think that two Caden Ellis on the field makes you necessarily worried. If I said that Grady Jarrett, two Caden Ellis, like a young version and an older version of Caden Ellis, and Rook Orororo are the defensive line that's about to attack you right now, would you be scared? No, I don't think you would be. I don't think that you would be nearly as terrified as if I would say, hey, so we have like Caden Ellis on one end, right? And we have Grady Jarrett in the middle, and I have Rook Orororo, and on the opposite side, I have Micah Williams, or I have Mike Green, or I have James Pierce Jr. If I had one of those guys, you would have a little intrigue. Matthew, what's going on, my man? Rise up, stay grounded. Yes, sir. Good to see you in here. Good to see you. Yeah, but I sit here and I say it's not far off, man. We're not actually that far off if you want to compete, but we just don't have the ability to stay consistent if we don't develop more talent, if we don't bring more people in. Just don't have it. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this won't be a long development process, but I am going to say very quickly that this can be fixed. You can make this Falcons defense very scary. If Trice and Rook develop, and then say you bring in the Georgia defensive end, right? And you keep Grady Onyemata as the cut later in the year, and you have Rook and Dorless and Zach Harrison, which, by the way, everybody keeps forgetting. You might have enough to create sacks, create issues for teams, put them in precarious places early on in games, if not like in spurts throughout the entire year. But it will never be consistent because there's too many pieces that are still missing from the team from a rotation standpoint. You don't have that next level of guys. So when I put AK on the field, which, by the way, is not someone that I have brought up, that I mentioned Trice. Yes, I did. When you put AK onto the field and Zach Harrison, you know what you're getting mostly out of those guys. And Zach might get you a sack. No pun intended. Didn't mean for that other name. But AK is struggling to present that to you. So when that part of the rotation starts, you're going to either tire out your guys from playing them too often, or you're going to end up putting guys like AK out there who are very slow developing. And while I like his services, it's hard for me to get, into that. And then, of course, you don't even know what you have with Trice. So, Harrison might get you a few sacks, but AK is going to be like a coin flip, and Trice is someone that you're going to have to put you're going to put some girth on him depending on how you're playing. If you're playing a 4-man line, Trice might end up being a linebacker for you. So you might have your linebacker situation set up, and then you might have to go get a traditional defensive end. But if you're playing a 34, you're still playing that kind of defense, then Trice does become a huge addition for you, and you will have to get some more linebacking help, and you'll have to think about, bigger trash cans full of dirt as far as defensive tackles are concerned. So just some things. I honestly, and this I'm gonna bring this up now because I think it's important to bring this up. But let's bring this up so that people can kind of see what we're talking about. Ugh, it's really bright. And that way people can also get kind of an idea of the like last year was one of those years where you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly who's going to be here. This is exactly who we're going to be drafting. And by the way, I'm gonna go back so everybody could see the different lines, but man, oh man, I'll tell you what. All right, here we go. Let's do it. Live screen. Hey, yo. So right now, 21% of mock drafts have the Atlanta Falcons taking James Pierce Jr. I'm going to open that in a new tab if it can. And then I'm going to open up the 23 too if that one will open up. I don't think they will because both of them, for whatever reason, my internet is having major issues. Crazy. But let's take a look at the second most, which is going to be Jalen Walker. So we have Jalen Walker, we have Michael Williams, we have James Pierce Jr. So they're looking at linebacker, they're looking at 2 defensive ends, and then 44% of drafts, the other 44% is just other players. The trendy pick right now is Mike Green, Marshall, defensive end. And I'm going to be honest with you, Mike Green just worries me from an off-the-field standpoint. Let's take a look at the 2024 draft. And 51% of mock drafts had us taking Dallas Turner. 35% of mock drafts had us taking something else. The 35% other was correct. They had us Verse at 6%. They had Turner at 51%, and they had Latu at 7%. The Falcons took Michael Penix Jr. They also say that we reached for Rook, that we took Trice at the right place, value with Dorless, who has done really nothing, and then reach on Bertrand, who I think did well for us. And then outside of that, McClellan, Casey Washington, Zion Logue. We lost Zion. Washington got hurt. McClellan, I don't even know if he stayed with the team at all. But the rest of this group got forced into service because we just don't have the depth. Right now, the other is at 44%, and I'm starting to believe the other. I am. I'm starting to believe that it will not be James Pierce Jr., it will not be Jalen Walker, it won't be Michael Williams, it will be other. Now, the trendy pick right now is the Mike Green story. So the Falcons Wire has us taking Mike Green, then Xavier Watts, and then they have us taking Jalen Walker in round 2. I don't know how they got a second. I don't know how they got a second and a third. I don't know how they got a second or a third. And this is January 31st, dude? Trade with the Cowboys. They say who, after swapping first-round picks with Dallas, we get the highest rating remaining edge rusher on the board. At what pick? What pick are the Cowboys? This is hilarious. No. I don't want I want a full mock draft. I don't want a Colts mock draft. I just want an entire NFL mock draft. What is going on, dude? Mocks, 2025 mocks. Goodness. Where do they have their pick right now? Cowboys. Hey, yo, what? What? Wait. Ayo, what? Have I lost my mind? Cowboys are at 12. How did you... What? Okay, this mock cannot be taken seriously. I can't take that shit seriously. Sorry, I can't. 23. 11% had us taking Bijan Robinson. We ended up taking Bijan Robinson in 23. So, yeah. So I don't even know how that is crazy, dude. The last actual mock draft that was done for us specifically, a Falcons mock draft, was Pro Football Focus. So let's take a look at Pro Football Focus. They have us taking James Pierce Jr. They have us taking Nick from South Carolina, the safety, Imanawari, and then David Walker, edge out of Central Arkansas, and they have us taking Moose Muhammad III, the Texas A&M wide receiver, who I think I saw run his 40. I think. Shamir Stewart, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. This is the most recent mock draft that's been added, and they'd have us taking James Pierce. Do they have a second round? They do not. Who's not in the who's Nick Scorton? You could double up on Scorton if he ends up falling to you at 46. Manawari is also there, I believe, for you there, but that's not bad. And in this, if it was still like then they took James Pierce Jr. or somebody came up and took James Pierce Jr. and it still fell the same way. Let's say the Falcons traded with who else needs a defensive end? Let's say that the Packers end up coming up and trading. That would be weird, but if the Packers come up, trade, give us their second round pick or their third round pick or whatever. Nick and Shamir Stewart is here. You know, man, like you have a couple guys, like there's Zabel. Zabel could be good. Jackie Campbell could still be good for you. I don't know if I want to take him like there. Walter Nolan is going to be there, so that could be really good for you. But yeah, I mean, even if you trade down, you'll get some of that value you're looking for right now, and I think the Falcons need to be aware of that value at this point in time. They need to be aware of the fact that they do not have the entire process together. They don't have the depth for this team to be successful into the playoffs and have the rotation that they need. This is a regular season winning club, and the Falcons and Panthers are probably closer to each other than the Falcons are to the Saints. I think the Saints are probably the bottom of our division. Falcons and Panthers are duking for second, and the Bucs right now probably on the fast track to going back into the draft, free agency, shoring up what they have, and taking it straight to next season to try to win. I just look at those games against the Falcons early on against Kirk Cousins, who was basically a sliver of himself, just a slight of himself. Man, he carved you up twice, put up 500-something yards and some like 10 touchdowns or some silliness like that, beat you in overtime and all kinds of nonsense. So I would look at yourselves and go, this division, if we slip up, the Panthers and the Falcons are right behind us, looking to swing. We need to be very careful about where things go from here. And then the North is just an absolute battlefield. The East is a rebuild sesh. It looks like two new teams. Well, one of them is most likely going to continue to try to win Super Bowl rings, but there are contenders in the East now, and the West is looks like a rebuild project. It looks like a bunch of those teams out there in the West are about to rebuild. So the NFC is open for the Falcons if they want to build the depth, but the only way they do that, they got to sell off some pieces. They're going to start making some room. They got to get some free agents to come in here and fill a couple of holes, and they got to spend some money that they don't have. So they might have to dip into 26, 27 in order to be able to keep some guys as well as add some more to the team. But anyway, that is currently the discussion right now for the Falcons. No real major news going on. Like, just not really a crazy amount. Ooh, yikes. My wide receiver one. Highest percentage of receptions for a first down or TD. Drake London is 15th. Darnell Mooney is 4th. Trader's such a hater, dude. Such a hater, dude. Yeah. Anyhow, all right, guys, we're going to head out. I've got to get ready to go. I've got to get ready to go, put together my work day. Man, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Goodness. All right. I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Peace.